Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? Long day today. Long week. Okay. I'm very excited for tonight's class. It's a great class. Let me just find the page. And we're ready. Okay. So good evening. Second time. Everyone has a book, right? Everyone needs, okay. So tonight's class is about meeting his needs. Last week we were exploring this belief in God, and we came to understand and to embrace the idea that there's an existence of a single supreme being that transcends and is way beyond anything that we can put onto our spectrum of comprehension, right? However, a question was asked last week, I think Stuart was asking about creation. A few people asked about God being a creator, and about the relationship between God, the creator, and the created, that's us. And there are many that are happy to embrace God in a no strings attached relationship. That would be the best, right? The problem is that to have a relationship with God actually has a lot of strings attached. A lot of details, a lot of laws. And if you want to have a relationship with God, the Torah gives you a whole list of conditions, some which are easy and fun to fulfill. Like having brisket on Pesach is pretty cool, and having a good Shabbos Friday night dinner, that's pretty easy, right? But other commandments are more demanding and more difficult to fulfill. Like not having ice cream, dairy ice cream after your brisket on Pesach. So, many people are unable to have a relationship with God because of the mitzvot and the strings that are attached in this relationship. Now there's two reasons why people have a blockage with connecting to God through the commandments. The first one is an intellectual problem. What's the intellectual problem? The intellectual problem is that, we learned last week that God is so high, and He transcends any scale or any spectrum that human beings could try and give to God. If so, how important can we even be in His eyes? Right? Imagine a single bacterium. You have in your body trillions of bacteria. We have 39 trillion bacteria in the average human body. I'm a little tall, so I probably have more. But the average, 39 trillion in bacteria. So how significant is one bacteria to you? That's the guy that sneezes on you, and therefore ask them how. We go through one bacteria is that important to us. So in God's perspective, wouldn't we assume that if God is this unbelievably all-power, infinite God, then how important can we be to an infinite God? King David, you heard of him, right? The sweet singer of Israel, he eloquently describes this. Let's open our textbooks. Page 32, text number 1. Carol, you right in front of me?
When I observe your heavens, the work of your fingers, and the moon and the stars that you set in place, I wonder, what is man that you should be mindful of him? What is a human that you should recall him?
Okay. Now, when we're discussing human and cosmic significance or insignificance, you could say it's all relative. Right? Like you ask someone in this room, hot or cold, so it's all relative. If you're the rabbi wearing all these layers, it's hot. If you're someone else, it's cold. Compared to the Antarctica, it's hot. Compared to Florida, But when you're talking about God, when you're talking about significance and how important we are to God, you can't say it's all relative, that compared to an ant, a human being is more important. Compared to infinity, compared to God, when we're asking if we have any value, any significance before God, so it's not like relative. That compared to my mother, I'm pretty important. Compared to my grandmother, I'm the most important. So.
Oh, call me later.
So to her son, she's very significant, so that's good. But the real problem is like this, is that if we're not important before God, because we're just finite human creatures in comparison to an infinite God, then guess what? Our actions also are insignificant compared to God. Right? That's the next logical step. If we're insignificant, if we're nothing compared to Him, He's not even a creator, as we discussed last week. He's just He's a being that transcends any kind of image we can have. So if He's not even a creator, so we're not really of any importance to Him, and our actions are not of much importance to Him. Yes? Okay.
That's confusing.
It's confusing?
Yes,
I
because
thought
he
our actions
created
are
us in
important to
his
him.
image, Tzelem Elohim. So he is a creator, and he created us in his image. So we cannot be that insignificant.
Just an example. Is a shadow if you walk by the mirror? If there's a shadow on the street when you're walking, is the shadow in your image? Yeah.
The width of it is.
The width of it is, and the height of it is. But is there no significance in comparison to your internal qualities, characteristics, etc.? So yes, it's true that human beings are created in the image of God. But at the end of the day, we say God is not about being a creator. God is far greater than that. So us finite creations, it's not like we're creation and He's our creator. He's a being that supersedes any kind of image we can give to Him. So we're nothing in comparison to Him. Which, would you accept that we're nothing compared to God?
If you put it that way, yes.
Okay, so if you accept that we're nothing compared to God, then the next logical step is that our actions are nothing compared to God. If you're nothing, okay, what's 0 times 100?
0.
0. So if you're nothing compared to God, it's,
Well, wait a minute, actions are choices that we've made.
I know, we're aware.
but it's insignificant to God, it has no value.
But there's a difference between saying that there's no value and that there's insignificance, because we do have value to God because He created us. So there is a value there. If He hadn't,
Okay,
if
did God create cockroaches?
they have a value too. We don't like their value.
But
we
everything
have
He
one.
creates has a purpose in His larger scheme.
That's true, but.
The discussion here is not if
Just
we
like
have...
every cell in our body has a purpose, and each one is absolutely crucial to the whole. So then each one of us, who was created in God's image, is part of the larger plan. Has a
Correct.
purpose.
So we are not in any way debating whether or not we have a purpose. Obviously, God made us with a purpose. What we want to talk about today is a relationship with God. A relationship with God means that I have value to Him. There's a screw holding up the ceiling, whatever. Is there value to me? Obviously, the screw serves a purpose. Everything, cockroaches serve a purpose. Everything serves a purpose. But it doesn't mean that they have value.
What's an image? Does it mean a physical image? or
No, God has no physical image.
That's
It's
what I'm
it's
asking. Is it character? Or?
character. The 10 sphirot. That's a whole other discussion. The 10 sphirot are representative of 10 expressions of God. But the point is, the conversation we're having tonight is not about if there's a purpose to why God made man. Obviously, God had a reason why He made man. The question is if we have any value in the relationship where our actions mean something to Him. That's the question we're going to discuss.
Well, why would He
What is
bother
the
to
question?
create us if we don't mean anything?
And why would He give us the commandments if they didn't mean something to Him? Us following.
Good question. That's what we have a whole class for tonight. Let's get to it. Let's find out. Let's do it. Okay. Hey, before we go to it, text number 2. Might address a little bit here. Vivian, read text number 2.
If you sin, how do you affect him? If your transgressions are many, what do you do to him? If you are righteous, what do you give him? What does he take from your hand? Your wickedness only affects a human like yourself. Your righteousness only affects people.
So the question is, why does God need me or want me to keep all these laws? Why can't He just leave me alone, let me enjoy my life, enjoy some good, pork, whatever they're called, lamb chops or whatever, not lamb, pork chops, whatever. I don't know what you got the idea. Something or other like that. Trade, exactly. Why can't I enjoy trade when that's it? Okay, right? Something like those things. Okay, the second issue that people have with, it's actually funny. I did an allergy test this past week. I was on my kids' anniversary. I did a food allergy test, like a few weeks ago, to get the results. I found out that I have an allergic reaction to shrimp. So the doctor told me that if I would ever eat shrimp, I would literally get smitten by the hand of God. I said, thank God. Never happened to me yet. But I'm allergic to shrimp and cockroaches, which is why I said cockroaches. Anyway. Okay, that's the intellectual issue we have with God. What value do our actions have to an infinite, all-being, all-powerful, superseding, transcendent existence? Yes? Okay. Second question is going the wrong way again. The second question is an emotional question. The emotional question goes like this. In life, when we have a choice, what's usually the question you use to decide if you're going to do it or not do it? You say, is this going to help me? Will I feel good about it?
Right.
Will it make my life more convenient, more enjoyable, or not? So if doing this will make it be more convenient for me, I'll buy it. If it's not more convenient, I won't buy it, right? Will the class make me feel good? We'll have a good time, at least hear a good joke if nothing else. Okay, I'll go. If not, right? It's too inconvenient to go to class, I won't. That's usually how we decide what we're going to do. Based on convenience, enjoyment, etc. And now, okay, so comes to decide if we want to keep the Torah and keep the mitzvot. You have the same question. Is it convenient? Is it enjoyable? Something I want to do? It's a normal question to ask, and in fact, when God wanted to give the Torah to the Jewish people, the Medrash says that before He came to the Jewish people, God went shopping around. He went to see who else wanted the Torah first. He wanted to get some options on His table. And we'll read text number 3, that when He went to the different nations, they all looked and they said, inconvenient. Let's see, let's read. Text number 3. Neil, you want to read text number 3?
Before God revealed Himself to the Jews and gave them the Torah, He revealed Himself and offered the Torah to all the other nations. First He approached the children of Esau and offered them the Torah. What is written in it, they asked. God responded, do not murder. Master of the world, they retorted. Our father Esau was a murderer, as it is stated. The hands are the hands of Esau. In fact, his father Isaac assured him, you will live by your sword. Next, God approached the children of Ammon and Moab and offered them the Torah. What is written in it, they asked. God responded, do not commit adultery. Master of the world, they retorted, our very existence is due to an illicit relationship, as it is stated. The 2 daughters of Lot became pregnant from their father, and they gave birth to Ammon and Moab. God continued and encountered the children of Ishmael and offered them the Torah. What is written in it, they asked. God responded, do not steal. Master of the world, they retorted, our father Ishmael was a bandit, as it is stated. He will be a wild man. He will fight everyone, and everyone will fight him. In a similar fashion, God approached every nation and offered the Torah, and every nation turned their ears to refuse it.
Beautiful.
We were the last choice.
Now we were in the last one. We're going to read exactly. Now, in 1 second. I want to first make a very good observation before we get to the Jewish response. Notice that the other nations did not counter God's offer of the Torah with any deep theological or ideological reasons why they don't want the Torah. What was their answer? Simple and honest. Inconvenient. We have a certain lifestyle already. We have a certain culture. This is not convenient for us. Thank you, but no thank you. That's what they said, right? It's not so hard to imagine that.
How about it's an ethical decision?
What's an ethical decision? Eating kosher?
Doing whatever it is.
Putting on tefillin is ethical?
You might feel it's a moral obligation. You're committed to God.
Okay. We're going to discuss in a minute soon why the Jews do mitzvot. But I want to first make you understand, it's not so hard to imagine someone saying, I'm not going to do this because it's inconvenient for me. I happen to know a few Jews, just a few, that don't do many mitzvot because it's inconvenient for them. Right? So we can relate to the non-Jew saying, what's in it? Inconvenient. I already have a certain culture, a certain lifestyle I'm accustomed to. I'm not ready to change my lifestyle. We had a few people like that. The Jews, however, respond differently. What do the Jews say?
How much does it cost?
The joke is, they asked how much, and God said it's free. He says, okay, give me 2 tablets. Buy one, get one free. But the Jews respond, actually, in truth, they don't respond that. The Jews respond, Nasa v'nishma, which means first we will do, and then we'll understand. We're in. They didn't ask what does it entail, what's the convenience, how much does it cost. If they wouldn't know how much Judaism costs, trust me, they never would have taken it, that's for sure. They said we're in. And the Talmud says that because the Jews had such commitment to God, they were very amply rewarded, and they got crowns were given by the angels. They got 2 crowns, one for Nasa, one for Nishma, etc. So now, let me ask you a question. Why did our forefathers accept this inconvenient lifestyle? What were they thinking? The other nations were thinking. How do I know they were thinking? Because they said, what's in it? Oh, this requires not murdering, but we have a culture of murder, so it's not us. So no thank you. It's not going to fit for us. Makes sense. What were the Jews thinking? Why did they accept?
Because we're the
What?
chosen one.
What's it in, Carol? The chosen people is not the reason why they accepted. We became the chosen people because we accepted.
They wanted to be chosen.
Okay?
Because we want to serve Hashem.
They wanted to serve God. Okay? Yeah?
They had nothing else to lose.
They had nothing to lose. So coming out of Egypt, they were on such a low level.
Why
Okay?
did they get out of the desert?
Yeah.
Was it anything to do with the world to come? If they wanted to do
God didn't say about the world to come. They don't know about the world to come yet. Okay. So I'm going to answer this question like a real rabbi by asking you another question. Right? So on page 36, what would motivate you to take on a demanding, difficult task that you didn't want to do?
Reward.
Challenge.
What?
God
Reward. Okay, reward.
Reward us.
What else? What? No, forget about mitzvahs now. If I came to you and said, I want you to babysit my kids, right? So you have 4 people calling you tonight, but you wanted to come to class instead because you're committed. So why would you normally accept to babysit the kids?
No, I would call, no, not for money.
Not my kids. My kids are someone else's kids. Someone's annoying kids. Whatever.
Well, you don't want to know why me, because I always feel bad.
I'm telling you, what are reasons why people commit to doing anything that they do?
They want
A reward.
Payback in some form, okay?
Because if you do something good, then something good comes back to you.
You do something good, you'll get paid back, or something good come back to you, yeah?
Want to please somebody.
Makes you feel good.
Want to please somebody.
You want to make someone happy with you, please somebody.
It makes you feel good.
Makes you feel good.
Accomplish something challenging.
Overcome a challenge, do something accomplishing. All good things. So, let's go through different reasons why. Okay? The first reason why people do things, yeah?
When Moses came down from the mountain with the tablets, he looked at all the Jews that were there, and they were all worshiping idols. So they didn't accept it.
The Nasa of Nishma was said the day before God gave us the 10 Commandments. The golden calf happened 40 days after the giving of the 10 Commandments. So we're talking about the day before the giving of the Torah. The golden calf is another story that requires a lot of explanation, but not tonight.
What?
I was thinking another motivation could be that we want to live authentically. We want to fulfill who we're meant to be, and that a string of mundane things in our lives
Very good.
really are part of that broader picture.
Okay.
When was it that rabbi offered, that God offered the Torah?
Before the giving of the Torah, the day before. If you look in Parashat V'zos HaBracha, it describes that it says a fire came from the north, from the south, like the different nations that.
1 day before? Okay, approximately.
What happened in the heavens was the angels of the. It was like a physical, lawyer presented an offer, the counter offer.
But this doesn't make sense, because God had already basically said that we were the chosen people, which is why he had us.
That happens then, the day before the giving of the Torah, when we accept. That's when we're the chosen people.
Yeah, but he had already told Abraham long before
There's
that.
another question, how could God know the future before it happens and we still have free choice? That's not for tonight either. We discussed that in the What Is course. Okay, you weren't there the last course. You missed the last course, you see? That's what happens. That's what happens. Yeah,
That's why you can't babysit, you can't.
okay, so the first reason, the most basic reason why people do something is reward, a paycheck, right? You go to work, you go to do whatever you got to do because there's an extrinsic motivation or reward for your actions. Now, combined with that is the opposite side of that same coin, which is that if you don't do it, there's going to be a negative consequence. So if you don't do what your boss told you, you get fired. If you don't follow the instructions on the street, you'll get a speeding ticket. Right? I was going to say to them, I see a police officer sitting here, I'll be... What?
I said only if you're over a certain amount.
Yeah. So that's the extrinsic motivation why we do things. Extrinsic, meaning it's external. It's not coming from within, it's coming from something outside. Okay. The next reason why we do I have a joke in here. Who is here on Shabbos and Shul?
The what?
And Shabbos had a great, so basically extrinsic is where you're, listen, I see, he says that you pay your taxes because you don't want to be sent to jail. You respect your in-laws out of fear of being sent to the doghouse. She said a really good joke this past weekend. For those who weren't here, I'll repeat it. That this young couple gets into a fight, so the girl calls up her mother and she says, that's it. Husband was screaming at me and cursing me out. I had enough of him. I'm coming back home to live with you. I can't do this anymore. And the mother says, no, you got to teach him a lesson. He has to learn the consequences of his actions. Instead, I'm going to come live with you. That's an example of extrinsic motivation. Okay, but then there's a deeper level of commitment where you do something for the intrinsic reward, which means, for example, there's an automatic benefit or the harm that follows from your actions. I mean, I'm not doing it because someone else will choose to reciprocate to me. I'm doing it because I will gain personally, directly as a result of what I'm doing. So when you brush your teeth, right? What happens? You're protecting your teeth from getting decay. So or when you prepare a delicious meal, you're going to get pleasure from the meal you're preparing. That's an intrinsic motivation. Yes? So you go to the gym to work out. That's an intrinsic motivation. You're doing it so that you'll feel better, have more energy, be healthier, etc., etc. Okay. Now there's a deeper level of why we do something or why we commit to something. It's the relationship. In the relationship, although the beneficiary of the work that we're doing is the other person, not ourselves, however, the relationship and the feeling of belonging and connection that comes as a result of that belongs to the person that did the work. Okay? So extrinsic means I'm doing it for you. Intrinsic means I'm doing it for me. Relationship means I'm doing it for you because I really gain out of having a relationship with you. Got that?
What about just wanting to do it because you think it's right?
Okay.
Without wanting something.
The fourth level is where you do it because it is itself important. So for example, if you're walking down the street and you see someone that had a heart attack and fell down, and you call 911 and you try and help them, you're not doing it for any external motivation, you're not doing it to make yourself feel better. It's important to try and help this person, try and get an ambulance, to try and help them if you know CPR, etc. Right? So this, you're not doing it for any other reason. There's no relationship with the person, they're a complete stranger, you never met them before. The only reason why you're doing this act is because it in itself is important, as you're describing.
An ethical decision.
Ethical, it's the right thing to do. Yeah, you can call it ethical if you want. You can use that word. It's the right thing, and it's the important thing to do. Okay? The same is true regarding doing mitzvot. Once we understand an intellectual motivation, why to do something, then it makes sense for us emotionally as well. As follows. If our mitzvahs don't benefit God, then we have no reason to do them. But once we can figure out an intellectual way of understanding why we have to do the mitzvot, then the emotional element will be dealt with as well. Okay? It's similar to what Viktor Frankl said. Viktor Frankl has a great line. He said that if there is a why, if you have a why to your life, then you can always live with any how. If you have a why, if you have a purpose, if you have a reason that drives you, that motivates you, then you'll figure out how to get to your why, how to deal with your why. With whatever it is to get to your why. Understand? So, there's two reasons why some people don't do mitzvot. One's intellectual, one's emotional. But once we can figure out the intellectual reason for why mitzvot are important, or why they benefit us, etc., go through these different levels, then we can understand how to deal. The emotional element will automatically fall away. Okay? So that will be our objective tonight, is that we're going to show you how doing mitzvot has an extrinsic benefit to the person, right? Has an intrinsic, there's the extrinsic level of the mitzvot, there's the intrinsic reward to the mitzvot, there's a relationship element to the mitzvot, and then there's the importance of the task in and of itself, and then we'll talk about a fifth reason as well as an extra credit bonus. Okay? Ready? Okay, so let's do it. Let's go past solve this again. Okay. Motivation number one is the extrinsic reward. It's the most basic motivation. You find it all over the Torah. You open up the Bible, and what do you see? Second paragraph of the Shema, if you will listen to the voice of God, if you will follow the commandments, He'll give you rain and great rain and livestock and livelihood and all the blessings will fall upon you, the early rain, the late rain, etc., right? And if you don't listen, what will happen? Time out, go into the corner, okay? Or the heavens will dry up and you'll be banished from your land, there'll be no more rain, there'll be no more produce, there'll be no more animals, and no more money, and no more, etc., etc., right? I mean, there's many sources for this idea. As Jews, we don't only believe that there's a reward and a punishment for our actions in this world, we also believe, the 11th principle of Jewish faith, is that our actions in this world also have a reward or a punishment in the world to come, Olam Haba. 11th principle of Jewish faith, text number 4. Alex, you want to read? What's your name? What? Andrew, yes. Go. Text number 4.
The 11th principle, God blessed be He rewards those who observe the commandments of the Torah and punishes those who transgress its prohibitions. The greatest reward is to experience the pleasures of the world to come. The greatest punishment is to be cut off from the world to come.
Beautiful, beautiful. Meaning that our experience in this world is too small to contain the great consequences of our obedience or our disobedience to what God tells us. So therefore, not only do we get rewarded or punished in this world, we also get rewarded and punished in the world to come. In fact, there's an entire school of Jewish thought. Look at the Mesilas Yesharim. This is like the whole premise, which is that understands that divine reward and punishment is the reason why God made creation. Because before the universe existed, God wanted to be kind, but there was no one to be kind to. There was no one to give reward to. So therefore, God had to make a universe, and all as an excuse to be able to give us a reward for doing the right thing. Understand? So the whole idea of Torah and mitzvot came as a way of God being able to find a way to shower His blessings and His love upon us. Okay? So this is both the earthly and heavenly reward, or the consequence if we listen or if we don't listen to what God told us. Very simple, right? We're all familiar with that. We got it. In your estimation, question on page 40, is this prospect of reward and punishment enough to motivate you to do Torah and mitzvot?
That kind of depends.
Kind of depends. Okay, safe answer.
It's kind of removed for a lot of people.
It's removed for a lot of
It's not an
people.
immediate.
Okay, why?
It's foreign. I didn't grow up with it.
You didn't go with the idea that God will punish you if you do something bad?
Oh,
Or reward you
absolutely,
for-
in the basic format, yeah, the 10 Commandments, yes. But the 613 commandments, I couldn't tell you more than 2 or 3.
Well, you know more than 2 or 3,
Maybe
but
10,
first of all, most of the commandments are not even applicable today. We don't have a temple, not in Israel, we don't have a king, we don't have a high priest. Many are not
How
even,
are we supposed to follow them?
we're not supposed to. The fact that God put us in a situation where we can't do them means that they're not relevant for us and our spiritual divine service in this time and age.
250, right?
I don't remember the number offhand, but it's not even half.
Can we get a listing of the ones we are supposed to?
Maybe we need a class on that.
What's the problem with this answer? What's the limitation of this approach to mitzvot?
Practical approach, this yes, this no.
No one has any no objection to this?
You have to understand why.
You need
Why
to be
you're doing it.
educated in it.
You understand why? I mean, when you go to your job every day, even when you're doing it for a totally, completely extrinsic paycheck at the end of the week or end of the month, do you at least feel like what you're doing is valuable?
Yeah.
You feel like there's value to what you're doing, right? At least to your employer there's value. To someone, maybe even not to you, to someone's getting value of it. You're helping someone in your job. And therefore, you know you do something important. But if the whole purpose of us doing mitzvot is only to create a way, a vehicle, in which God could reward us for what we have done, then what have we really accomplished? Meaning, we might have gained, but what have we accomplished? Meaning, let's say you could have, I'll give you $1,000, or you can work and earn $1,000. Obviously, it can do two things. Meaning, here's the stories right here. Hey, watch this video.
Clouds of dust rose behind the wheels of a wealthy baron's horse-drawn carriage. "Halt!" he cried to his coachman, as a field of golden, shoulder-high wheat came into view. In the field, a muscular young man grasped a long scythe with both hands. Again and again, the farmhand brought the metal tool down in a sweeping motion, deftly harvesting the waving wall of grain. The baron was mesmerized. "What graceful movements!" he exclaimed. "How calming to watch!" The baron approached the farmhand. "I'll double your pay if you come to work for me," he offered. The young man wiped his forehead. "All right," he replied at last. 4 ruble a day." "Done," clapped the baron, and he opened his carriage door for the farmhand to hop aboard. Minutes later, they arrived at an enormous mansion. The baron ushered his new employee into a lavishly furnished lounge. Sinking into a cushioned recliner, the baron ordered the young man to get to work with his scythe. "But where's the wheat?" he gasped in astonishment. "It's not about the wheat," replied the baron. "It's about the movements. Imagine that you are standing in a field filled with tall grain. Swing your scythe as gracefully as you did in the field." With a bewildered shrug, the farmhand got to work. He raised and lowered his scythe with a rhythm that enchanted his new boss. It was far easier than harvesting real wheat, but after half an hour, the young man set down his tool. "Don't stop!" cried the baron. "You have wonderful rhythm. I'll triple your pay if need be." Again, the worker silently attacked the stalks of imaginary grain. On and on he swung that scythe, but after an hour, he let it drop with a jarring clang. "I'm going back to my old job," he cried in exasperation. "But why?" asked the baron in amazement. "This work is far easier, and your pay is far greater." "I'd rather work a whole lot harder," snapped the farmhand, "and get pennies in return, as long as I can do something productive. Work that accomplishes nothing is sheer torture." And off he went, leaving the baron shaking his head in wonder. This parable was offered by Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson. It is human nature to seek meaning in our activities, for without meaning, even if there be ample reward, even light work becomes unbearably burdensome and disheartening. Reward is simply not a valid exchange for genuine accomplishment.
Okay, so the problem with this first explanation is that if the only reason why we're doing what we're doing is because we want God to reward us or not to get punished and burned in the eternal damnation of hell, so what you do has no value, has no real intrinsic or even extrinsic benefit, there's no significance in your actions. Okay, so you gained, you avoided a hot barbecue, but that's about it. Okay? So let's go to a deeper level in doing the mitzvot, a more intrinsic motivation and reward. Text 5a. Tarek, all in the corner. Loud so we can hear you. Page 40. This is from the Rambam Maimonides.
Each of the 613 commandments either conveys an admirable idea or rejects a repugnant idea. Either is a principle of justice or wards off an injustice. Either endows a noble character trait or cautions against a negative trait.
Okay, so this is what the Maimonides says about doing the mitzvot. Very similar idea, text 5b from the Ramban. Susie, you want to read in the other corner?
Okay, the mitzvot was given solely to refine human beings. The mitzvot are not intended to benefit God. Their purpose is to benefit humankind, to keep us from harm, shield us from negative beliefs and base character traits. remind us of the miracles and wonders of the Creator, and to help us know God. The Midrash says that mitzvot refine human beings, similar to the process of refining silver. Just as silver is refined to remove all impurities, so too mitzvot cleanse our hearts of improper beliefs, make us cognizant of the truth, and help us to be constantly aware of God.
Okay, so both Maimonides and Nachmanides are saying the same idea, which is that every mitzvah is useful because it serves some positive purpose within man's life, right? Every mitzvah you do in some way shields us from harm, it refines our character, it nurtures a correct belief or viewpoint, it makes us a better person, it enables spiritual growth, etc. Now you might ask, how do actions improve our character? You would think that what's the best way to become a better person? Meditate, silence, do yoga, learn, study, right?
No, doing good deeds to help others.
No, but as far as building character,
That builds character.
that's true. I don't disagree with you. Yeah.
If God had these mitzvot for us to improve ourselves, why did He put us in a condition where we couldn't perform the mitzvot?
That's an excellent question. If the mitzvot are meant to make you stronger, make you better and more spiritual and more refined, so why do they make it so difficult to do the mitzvot? So I'll answer. It's a good question. A very brief answer. If lifting weights is meant to make you stronger and healthy, right? How come the lifting weights is so hard and heavy? It's only the resistance of the weights that makes lifting the weights valuable. If you can lift 50 pounds, I'm feeling lazy, I'll just lift 20 pounds today. It's a waste of time. Better don't do nothing. I'm saying, I'm better with it. You're not accomplishing anything by lifting.
What happens if He takes the weights away? What happens if God takes the weights away, so He can't lift the weights at all?
The value is in the challenge. I mean, there's a beautiful analogy about this person that. There's a beautiful analogy of a person, the yeshiva boy, with a soccer game I've shared before. Okay, very quickly, I'll show you a beautiful analogy, then we'll go further. There was a yeshiva student in Israel that once missed class one night. So the teacher found out where he was watching a soccer game. Maccabee game, some big game. So he asks him, next day says, I heard you watching a soccer game. Explain to me, I don't understand. What is so exciting about a soccer game? Explain to me what happens at a soccer game. So this kid thinks his rabbis there's some uninformed ancient relic of a past, but they don't know what a soccer game is. So he says, explain. Now there's people on this team and the people on this team, and their goal is to pass the ball back and forth to try and get into the goal of the other team. So the rabbi says, I don't understand. How come they have to go during the game when there's a goalie blocking and the person blocking? Why don't they just go an hour before the game starts? We know goalie blocking them. We know defense blocking them. Then they can score 100 goals. You told me, okay, you asked them, what was the score of the game? 1-0. It was an excellent game. Excellent game. They score 1 goal the whole time. And they go early and they'll score 100 goals. So the boys think this dumb rabbi. They go an hour earlier, it doesn't count. Right? If mitzvah were easy, they wouldn't count. The whole value is that when it's difficult and you do it, now you've gained something.
Well, the question is this. In the Torah, you have many of the mitzvot involve sacrifices. Why did we lose the temple and therefore we cannot even do the sacrifices?
So I said to the Lord before, the fact that today we don't have an ability to do sacrifices means that spiritually that's not our divine service anymore. And there's different reasons why, and we're going a little bit a lot off subject. The Rambam says that there's a whole process of humanity becoming more spiritually refined. But for whatever reason, God made it that today don't have to bring sacrifices. That's not part of our spiritual service anymore. Okay. How would you think would be the best way?
Well, you had asked the question.
The best way to become a better person? Through action or through meditation?
Meditation, you're only affecting yourself. Actually integrate what we're learning, we might have a flash of insight.
So what you're really saying?
When we actually perform and do, it doesn't become integrated into our being.
So you're saying that the learning is what does. We need action to cement the message.
Not just to cement it, to make it part of who we are.
Okay, but you still need learning and meditation.
Yes.
And in Judaism, if you do a mitzvah with absolutely no education, no meaning, and no motivation at all, is it valuable?
Yes.
Yeah, so therefore that answer you just said wouldn't work. right? Yeah.
When you're doing the learning and the meditating, you're only affecting yourself. When you're doing an action, you're affecting.
Yeah, but we just said that the reason why God gave you the mitzvah is to make you a better person, not to help someone else.
Because
Did you read
by
the text?
doing something, you're making yourself a better person. By doing an action, when you're internalizing, you're not doing any action. It's an action that's only like affecting you in here. When you're actually doing an action that affects other people, you're benefiting yourself because you're growing as a human being.
I'm not sure why you grow as a human being by helping somebody else. We're talking about refining like silver. Okay, fine.
There's a law in physics that says what you give out comes back. So when you are doing that action, you are also helping yourself.
That's an extrinsic reward. There you're doing it to get something in return. So I'm thinking, if I'm going to be kind, then you'll be kind to me. That's extrinsic.
You're not necessarily doing it to get something in return.
Here, last note.
Meditating and you're bettering yourself. You're bettering your ability to do good for others as well.
Okay. You're saying it's true, and what you're saying is true. But it's not what they're saying in text 5a or 5b. 5a and 5b is not talking about helping other people. If you read it again, you'll see that 5a and 5b are saying that by doing mitzvot, this is a way that God gave you the ability to make yourself a more spiritual, more refined person.
Their purpose is to benefit humankind. So if we're doing a mitzvah, we're doing an action, it's benefiting humankind. If we're just meditating, it's only benefiting ourselves.
Okay, fine. The benefit of humankind is not from other people, meant to make. God gave you the opportunity to become a better human being.
It's for yourself.
It's for yourself. So the question is how. You would think that meditation would be a better way of refining your character than actions. But the truth is that today's psychology has proven out of empirical studies that actions directly influence your emotions.
Right.
Actions influence your emotions. Text number 6. It's a fascinating study. Who wants to read with a nice loud voice? Text number 6. Mindy, go. Text number 6.
An ingenious series of experiments conducted a number of years ago showed that when people mimicked the facial expressions associated with happiness, they felt happier, even when they did not know they were moving the happy muscles in their face. Researchers have found that smiling itself produces feelings of happiness. How were they kept in the dark? Simple. They were asked to hold a pencil with their teeth. Doing so tends to activate the muscle we use when we smile, the zygomatic major. This muscle lifts the corner of the mouth obliquely upwards and laterally and produces a characteristic smiling expression. Try it now. You will smile. Now take the pencil and hold it in your lips, pointing it straight out. A different set of muscles are now activated. Those that are involved in frowning, these are the ones targeted by Botox treatments. Why this clever ruse? You can't tell subjects in the study that they are supposed to be feeling happy because that would have unintended consequences on the behavioral rating of interest. It turned out that the people with a pencil in their teeth, who were, unbeknownst to them, activating their zygomatic muscles, rated cartoons funnier than those who held the pencils with their lips. It appears that going through the motions can trigger the emotions. That's interesting. Technically stated, involuntary facial movements provide sufficient peripheral information to drive emotional experience.
You understand? It's so fascinating.
Can I add one sentence to this?
One sentence.
Okay. When you smile, it's acupuncture. You are pressing on that zygomatic muscle. You actually raise the serotonins in your brain and you feel better.
Awesome. The point is that do it and the emotional, spiritual, psychological benefits will follow. So by giving kindness to someone else, it's not just you're helping them. You are helping yourself because by volunteering in the soup kitchen and by giving charity, you are making yourself a more kind, sensitive, loving, giving person yourself. Okay. That's why people have the science has discovered that attitude change often follows behavioral change, and conversely, that many good intentions are destroyed by old habits. So you want to be better, you want to be healthier, but your habits, your actions destroy your emotions. Okay, tell you a great story. There was a guy who came to the rabbi, said, I'm miserable, I can't handle this anymore, my wife's making me mushuga, I need to get out of this marriage ASAP. So the rabbi said, I have a good idea for you. Why do you want to get divorced? I'll help you. We're going to hire a hitman, and we're going to kill your wife. He gives a look at the rabbi, like, you couldn't believe his ears. He said, look, go get a good insurance policy on her. I have some connections. I know who to hire. I'll take care of it so the rabbi, no one will suspect a thing. Pick a date in 3-4 months from now. And put on the calendar, January 15th, they pick a date, they exit off, the rabbi convinces, it's a great idea. The rabbi said, but before you have this hitman kill off your wife, you gotta make sure that people think that you actually loved her, because now everyone knows that the two of you are not on such great talking terms. You know the joke about the guy says, the first 10 years before I got married, I did all the talking, my wife did all the listening. Next 10 years, she did all the talking and I did the listening. Now we both do the talking and the neighbors do the listening, right? So the neighbors already know that you're not such on good terms. So if you're going to have this hitman kill off your wife, you got to make sure that people don't suspect anything, else it won't be so good for you. Rabbi, it's a good point. So the rabbi said, listen to me. Go on the way home.
The rabbi knows a lot about this stuff.
So the rabbis tell us, you got to listen to me. Go home, on your way home, stop by and buy a big, beautiful bouquet of flowers. She's going to ask you why. I say, I just wanted to tell you I love you. I haven't spent so much time together. I just wanted to give you love. Next week, anniversary was 2 months ago. 2 days from now, go buy a beautiful anniversary gift. Say, it's an anniversary, I feel bad. I want to buy an anniversary gift. He gives him a whole thing for the next 4 months, till the date on the calendar, till January 15th. Every week, do this, do this, do this, the restaurant, the cruise. Gives him a whole list. This so no one will suspect a thing. I'll arrange a hitman. 50 grand, you're going to pay me 50 grand. I'm going to get you a hitman. We'll kill your wife off. You're going to get a beautiful insurance policy. That'll be great. What happens? That night, the guy comes home with a big bouquet of flowers. His wife's mouth drops to the floor. She says, what's this for? He says, I never just wanted to say I love you. So you can imagine that night was a very lovely night. Had a wonderful time. Comes the morning. She's still feeling so in love. She goes to make him breakfast. Now this hasn't happened in 15 years. He comes home the next night with a gift. She says, what's this? He says, our anniversary passed 2 months ago and I never bought you an anniversary gift. I feel bad. It's never too late to say I love you and I'm happy to marry you. Here's an anniversary gift. She had another very lovely night. And then they went out to dinner. Next thing you know, you guys already get the gist of the story. 3 months go by like this. And all of a sudden they're madly in love with each other. Comes January. They had a beautiful New Year's, everything. Looks at his calendar and he sees marked in a big X on his calendar, January 15th. There's a hitman coming to kill his wife. He goes running to the rabbi. He says, Rabbi, you gotta save me. I love my wife. I don't want to have her killed. I'm sorry, but it's done deal, 50 grand. He says, Rabbi, you can't kill her. I love her. He says, another 50 grand. We can cancel the hitman.
That's a good fundraiser.
Good fundraiser. Who wants to get rid of the wife? We're on camera. I gotta be very careful. I'm gonna edit that part out of it. Thank you, my wife is visiting bedtime. She's listening to my classes. She has no idea. No.
You're talking about hiring a hitman in front of the cop?
Yeah, in front of the cop. No, but the truth is, if you know the story, and you bring your wife home roses, and you go out for dinner, and you... Trust me, I figured out the story, and I'm very, very in love. Thank God. You get the point.
Missing January 15th, we know who to
Yeah.
Big fundraiser.
Now you might ask a question and say, but I don't see the benefits of the mitzvah. I don't see how putting on tefillin makes me a better human being. I don't see how eating kosher makes me a better human being. So first of all, here's where you need to trust God. Because sometimes you can observe the benefit of the mitzvah, and sometimes you can't. A little kid, when you tell them to brush their teeth, they don't understand how brushing my teeth is going to stop plaque. That when I'm 35 years old, I'll still have all my teeth in my mouth, and when I'm 55 years old, right? You think a 5-year-old cares what's going to happen to his teeth when he's 55 years old? They couldn't care less. So you're going to try and explain to them about plaque and about, I don't know what else goes on in the mouth. It's not going to work, right? So we are that child, and we need to trust our Father in heaven and believe that when He says that doing this mitzvah will make you a better human being, He knows what He's talking about. Yes?
Yes.
In most cases.
What?
In most cases.
Are you Jewish by any chance?
By the way, even when you don't understand, there's a certain benefit to that too. Because by doing a mitzvah that you don't understand, that creates a sense of humility in the person. Humility is a very good character. It'd be good if more people had some humility. It'd be a much better world. So just by recognizing that I don't understand, and there's something I can't understand, which for many of us is very difficult to do, that alone has an amazing benefit for us.
We just had a wonderful example of Nasa and Mishma.
Yeah, okay. So this is the benefit of, second benefit, the intrinsic benefit of keeping mitzvot, that it makes you a more refined, more spiritual, more good, lovely, wonderful, kind, better human being. Okay? Now just like for example, let's do one mitzvah quick because we're going to run out of time soon. Keeping kosher. How does keeping kosher foster better character? So I become a better person by not eating meat and dairy together. Not eating the, what's it called? Pork chops. It's so simple. It's not kosher. The name's too easy to say. Should be more sophisticated. Cheeseburger. Yeah. How does not eating a cheeseburger make me a better human being? So first of all, a few possibilities. What?
Because it's God's commands that.
But I'm saying, how does that fit into this idea that by eating kosher, it makes you an intrinsically better human being?
You're more aware of God and you have a better relationship with Him.
Okay, very good.
You're more aware of what you're putting into
Very
your body.
good. Very more what you're putting into your body. More aware of God controlling what you put into your body. On a very simple level. I'll give more time, but there's a simple level. It teaches compassion for animals, to be sensitive to the needs of animals. The ideas of slaughtering an animal in a way that has the least cruelty to the animal. The prohibition from taking a limb from a living animal, which before there was refrigerators, was pretty common practice. Today we have freezers and all that, but that didn't happen back then. We're not allowed to slaughter a mother and her baby on the same day. Not allowed to take the eggs from the mother's nest. Can't have the prohibition of meat and milk comes from not cooking a mother goat in the calf in the mother's milk. Thank you. So we're not allowed to eat birds that are predatory, etc. We don't want to internalize. Same thing. We don't want to internalize a character trait of a bird or of a fish that eats other fish. It introduces us to be better with self-discipline. Eating is an intrinsically an animalistic act. By keeping kosher, it forces you to learn the art of self-control and self-discipline, that you can't always eat what you want before you want. There's a book I have in my home in the middle of reading called Mindful Eating. But mindful eating is this idea, keeping kosher helps you become more mindful. Can I eat this? Or how many hours ago did I have milk? How many hours ago did I eat meat? Is this kosher? Etc., etc. It's also a spiritual awareness. As you mentioned, the word, it says at the end of the laws of kosher, you shall keep kosher and you will be holy. What does holy mean? Removed, separated. That we understand that we can't just eat whatever we want when we want, because we're not only here to eat. We're not animals that sit in the grass in the field. I'm on an elephant safari. The elephants just don't stop eating. They eat and they eat and they eat. That's the only purpose in life, to eat grass and eat leaves. By sometimes not being allowed to eat reminds you that your purpose in life is not just to eat. It's also good to Jewish identity. You only go to the kosher restaurant, and you talk about the kosher restaurant, they complain about the restaurant, saying whatever, it's all part of the... Okay, anyway. Now, I'm not saying that definitively any of these is the right reason why we keep kosher. Maybe none of them. The point is they're just examples of how keeping kosher, which you can look at it and say, such an inconvenient, difficult thing to do, there is no value to keeping kosher. I just very quickly rattled off a whole bunch of ways that we gain self-discipline, we learn to be mindful eaters, we learn not to become callous to the needs of the animals that we're eating, to become spiritually aware and to be holy, to remember life is about more than just eating, to have a Jewish identity, etc. Those are all beautiful things that make us better people intrinsically by keeping kosher. Okay? Okay. Now, is this a good enough reason to keep the Torah and the mitzvot? You say yes. Okay. No, are you satisfied with this?
I need more.
Not anymore. Just because you know I have more to teach still.
I need more.
Oh, you need more. Oh, you need more. Okay, good.
I don't think it's that simple.
No.
The premise of text 2 still remains with this. What was the premise of text 2? We asked in text 2 that if you sin, what did Eov say? If you sin, im chatasa, how did you affect him? If you are righteous, how did you benefit him? What do we explain? What's the point of doing mitzvot? For your benefit. But to God, our actions are not significant to God. Which then brings us back to our original question of tonight's class, that are we significant to God? Meaning, if you're trying to explain to me that I'm significant to God, telling me that doing mitzvot makes you a better human being is not going to prove to you that what you do is significant before God. Yes? No?
Say that again.
I'll say it again. I'll say it again. The question that we started tonight really with was, are we significant to God? Obviously God created us with a purpose. But do we have meaning? Are we significant to God? Do we have value to God? So we're trying to say that we're doing mitzvot. But the mitzvot, the way we've explained it from the Rambam and the Ramban, are not really to help God. The mitzvot are really only to help us become more, more refined, have a better character. So if we're only helping ourselves become better, there's nothing really godly about that. There's nothing that really makes God value us more or not. If you see cockroaches, okay, go to the cockroaches. At one cockroach, do you notice that one cockroach has a nice hairdo and one has a bad hairdo? You never notice. But maybe cockroaches have hairdos. And they go to the cockroach salons and they get their, I don't know, their little whiskers bronzed, or I don't know what they do to their hair. Right? Or dye them red. Maybe cockroaches dye their whiskers, I don't know, antennas. They have little antenna color. They curl their antennas in the morning for 10 minutes. Could be they do that, but you wouldn't notice if they had curled antennas or straight antennas or shaved antennas. You would never notice the difference, right? You wouldn't know, because it's insignificant to you. So do you think if God is so great, does it make a difference to God if you're a more kind human being or a less kind human being? If you have more self-discipline or less self-discipline? What does it make a difference to God?
I think it does.
You think it does? Why?
We're supposed to be making a home for God, and He's not coming until we reach a certain
Okay, very good.
status.
Very good. It's not your first time at Chabad. Very good. Very good. But what you said doesn't address this. You said it's something else. It's not what we just discussed for the last 10 minutes.
Right.
Okay. So what we're discussing, though, is not enough of a reason.
Right. That's internal.
What's internal? A home for God? No, what we're discussing is internal. But just this internal motivation for keeping the mitzvot does not answer our fundamental question, are we important before God?
Here's the thing, if we're not important before God, then we wouldn't have to be saying all these prayers, coming to shul, having these long services. It's like,
You think our services are long? I'm a strategy shul to send you to the head.
That is true.
No, but what I'm saying is we could easily wake up each day and say, thank you, I appreciate, which, I already do, but, and that would be it. We have to be significant to God for...
Maybe God's making you a better human being, and He's doing a nice thing for you, making you better, but He gains no benefit.
Well, wait a minute, don't you do that really for yourself?
Actually, he does.
What we're saying here is for yourself.
Yeah, come to shul for yourself, not...
That's one reason why people go to shul.
Shabbos for yourself, you light the candles for yourself.
That's the level we're discussing now, correct?
Right.
Yes.
Go to the basic premise that the neshama is part of God, then you're doing things to keep a connection with God.
Okay, so that's going to be number 3. Very good. Thank you for leading to the third level of why we do mitzvot. So we said already before, because of the relationship that exists between us and God through our commandments. So let's start with King David. We started with him before. We'll start with him again. Text number 7. A man is not embarrassed to show his love and commitment to God. Mary, you want to read text number 7?
In your estimation.
As a dearest.
Oh, over there, not
45.
As a deer.
As the deer longs for streams of water, so I long for you, O God. I thirst for God, the living God. When will I come and appear in God's presence?
Okay, so God, King David has no problem saying, God, I'm in love with you, I want you, I miss you, I desire you. Let's have a relationship, right? That's why we came to class. So all of you that are here because you want to have a relationship with God, right?
Right.
So it's a pretty good thing to want. But does that make any sense that a finite creature should share a relationship with an infinite God? Is that even possible? Meaning, why do we have relationships? Because me and you share something in common. We have, shared interests, shared personalities. We live in the same area. Our kids go to the same school. So we share something in common. And as a result of that, we begin to develop a relationship, right? Correct? Can this be said of God and man? That our kids go to the same school, or we go shopping in the same Publix, or we live in the same development, or that we like the same TV show or whatever, right? Can't say that about us and God. God is not a created being, we are. God transcends time and space, and we're limited by time and space. God's omnipresent, and we're barely present. We don't even know what's going on around us, right? Especially with our cell phones on. So, yeah.
So by obeying the mitzvot and doing the mitzvot, that's how we gain a relationship with God.
Yeah, but how does that make sense?
Because that's what he's asking us to do.
Okay, very good. And therefore, so?
But isn't God the Father of all people, and don't we want to have a relationship with our Father?
Yeah, of course you don't have a relationship with him. The question is, how does doing a mitzvah develop a relationship?
Because he commanded us.
How does it make a relationship?
He commands it, and we're following it.
Right,
Okay.
right.
It's like, as a father, you say to your child, I want you to pick up your toys and put them away.
So-
And if your child is doing it, they're listening to
So you're
what you
saying that when we go to a restaurant and the waiter, you say, I want, I don't know, what do you want in the restaurant? Lamb chops, right? And the waiter brings you lamb chop. I have a relationship with the waiter because he did what I told him.
I think that performing the mitzvot helps us connect with more deeply with the essence of God. I mean, our soul is part of God, and we long for that union. In a physical world, we feel separate, but we still long for union and connection. So I think that doing the mitzvot helps us connect with that essence.
Okay, that's correct. That's correct. The question is how. The question is how. So and what you say, by the way, is true. Not to confuse you. You said it's true. That there is a relationship with God through doing the mitzvot.
The more you do, the more the relationship grows.
But it's not just about doing something because God said so, because then you and the waiter, the more often you go to the same restaurant, maybe you could get a relationship with the waiter, but it's you go there every day for dinner.
Just
No, we
a little bit off the subject. You keep talking about the commandment is that thou shalt not kill.
So many men.
When I see a cockroach in my house,
Okay, let's not get too deep.
is it related?
No, I'm just using them as an example of how insignificant they are compared to us. I don't want to text. Okay, I want to talk about the relationship with God. Now, what you're saying is true. We've all been trained with this. We all know that you want to have a relationship with God, do what God told you, and you have a relationship. My question is how? How does doing something that if and that God tells you to keep kosher? So I bought this tomato sauce instead of that tomato sauce because this had a kosher simple and that didn't. So how does that create a relationship? So let's read text number 8. Beautiful story. And then, Marvin, read text number 8. Beautiful story, and I'll explain to you.
13-year-old golfer Ethan Couch wished in the hospital 2 years ago to go to the Masters. After his parents noticed that Couch was suffering from strange symptoms, tests revealed that he had tectoglioma, and there was a benign but inoperable tumor in his brain. On Wednesday, Couch's wish will come true. Kevin Streelman, whose daughter spent time in intensive care after being born, decided that he wanted to make a difference in a child's life and give them a trip to Augusta National. After contacting the Make-A-Wish Foundation, Streelman was put in touch with Couch, who will serve as his caddy at the Masters Par 3 contest. Streelman introduced himself to Ethan and explained that as a Masters competitor, he was allowed to choose his caddy for Wednesday's event. He was choosing Ethan. The boy fell silent, his parents each listening over speakerphone began to cry. When Ethan finally spoke, his voice was shaking. I just wanted to go to the Masters, he later say. I didn't expect this.
It's a very touching story, but let's analyze it for a second. Ethan Couch wanted to go to the Masters, so instead of this golfer what's his name? Streelman just sending him first-class premium tickets to the event, what does he do? He cruelly makes his kids become his servant, schlep around after him, run around lugging all these golf sticks and cubs and whatever, right? The poor kid's sick, he's dying. Let him sit in the front row and enjoy himself. Why make him schlep after you and run after you? Why?
He made him a part of him.
That's your better question. Who's really helping who? Is this boy helping Streelman or Streelman helping Ethan?
Streelman helping Ethan.
Although, if you looked at it as a superficial perspective, Streelman's a big guy and this little boy is running after and serving him. But really, Streelman is helping Ethan. Why? Not just because he did what he wanted. The point is that Strelman gave him an unbelievable gift. The ability to have a relationship with someone very famous and very important. Meaning, the relationship was formed specifically because Strelman let Ethan do something for him. Now, he could have found many other people to do it. He didn't need this boy to be his caddy. But once, here's the kicker, right here. But once he made this boy his caddy, and now he was at the tournament, does Strelman now need Ethan? Yes. Strelman made himself dependent on Ethan. And that's how he helped Ethan, by giving Ethan the importance of being able to have Strelman be dependent on him. You understand how deeply profound that is? I'm going to say that again. Strelman could have bought Ethan first class tickets. He could have sat in the front row and had free drinks and had a great time. But that would have been just nice. Right. Instead, Strelman said, I'm going to let you schlep after me. I'm going to let you run after me and carry my clubs. And by you carrying my clubs, at that moment now Strelman made himself need this boy. And because this famous golfer is now dependent upon this 13-year-old boy, this 13-year-old boy has now become very, very important. You understand? God gave us the mitzvah as a way for us to open the door for us to connect to Him. Meaning, God doesn't intrinsically need anything from us. Indeed, we are nothing compared to Him. But since God shows that He wants to have a relationship with us, He made Himself vulnerable in order that He should then be dependent upon us choosing to do what He asked us to do. And because God now needs us to do certain things for Him, we now have importance. See, when you go to the restaurant, the waiter gives you what you ask. There's no relationship with the waiter because you don't need that. There's no like, I'm making myself dependent upon you. I'm the client. Here, what's so beautiful is Strelman said, because I'm important, I'm going to make myself depend on the boy. That gave the boy the greatest gift the boy could ever get.
So then we are significant.
Absolutely. We're very significant to God. Because God made Himself vulnerable to become needing us to do what He asked us to do. That's the relationship. That's the relationship. Not just by doing something, it's a relationship. By God making Himself dependent upon us choosing to do what He asked of Him. That's the relationship.
So that goes back to what Carol said. That God wants to be in our world. Yes? And we have to do what we need to do to bring Him into our world.
Yeah. Not just bring Him into our world. God allowed His world, so to say, to be dependent upon us choosing to do the mitzvah. And that gives us an importance. Let's read text number 9. The word mitzvah, the very word mitzvah brings out this idea. Barry, want to read text number 9?
The word mitzvah is related to the Aramaic word tisita, which means connection. One who performs a mitzvah connects with God, the issuer of the commandment. This is the meaning of the Messianic phrase. The reward of the mitzvah is the mitzvah. The reward of the mitzvah is the connection it generates with God who issued the commandment.
Okay. People commonly totally mistranslate the word mitzvah as good deed. I don't know where that came from. In Hebrew, the word mitzvah means commandment. That's what the one. In Hebrew, the word mitzvah, mitzaveh, is I'm commanding, right? Mitzvah is the word tzav, to command. But in Aramaic, there's an even deeper connection. That in the Aramaic, the word tzaveh is to connect, to attach, to join. Which means that the word mitzvah is connected to the idea of the person doing this activity becoming connected with God. This is the idea of the mitzvah. Mitzvah means commandment. The word tzaveh is to bond. And this is the experience of bonding that we have with God. Okay? So, the story is like this. So this guy came to the Rebbe. He didn't want to go to the Rebbe. He was not interested in religion in any way, shape, or form. His wife was keeping kosher. He had no patience for it. His father-in-law wanted to go see the Rebbe. His wife wanted to go see the Rebbe for a private audience in the 60s. So he got schlepped along. He comes, is waiting for his meeting with the Rebbe. So they told him that you have to write a letter to the customer. Before he went to the Rebbe, he wrote a letter and you gave it to the Rebbe and then he would answer. So he said, I have nothing to write. I don't need any blessings. I don't need anything from the Rebbe. Leave him alone. Leave me alone. And they said, that's the rules. So you go in, you give a letter with your name, whatever. Anyway, he came, so he insisted to write a letter. So, okay, he wrote a letter, So what did he write? He wrote his name, his Hebrew name, and then he wrote, why does God care about the details? Something along those lines. Why does God care about the details? Why is it important to me? Like his wife used to make him crazy that if I take the spoon and had cottage cheese in it and put it in the other sink and then you have to go bury the spoon. Why does God care if the spoon had cottage cheese in it? That was what was bothering him. So he came to the meeting. So first I'll describe how the Rebbe looked at the names. And he described his name, he had 2 names, his wife had 2 names, his father-in-law only said 1 name. And the Rebbe looks, is like tapping his pencil in confusion. And the Rebbe looks at his father-in-law and says, that, are you sure you told me your whole name? And he thinks for a moment, he realizes that, I don't remember the names by heart, that's in the video, he forgot to write one of his names. Let's say his name was Avram David, he only wrote Avram. Kind of like Avram David, if I'm not mistaken. He missed one of his names. Anyway, then the Rebbe looks at his letter, and the Rebbe said, I don't understand your question. So he thought that the Rebbe didn't understand the English, because he wrote it in English. Right. So he started to explain it in Yiddish. It was a 1-line question, he said, why does God care about all the details? And the Rebbe stopped him and said, I understand. But the mitzvot are not about you. The mitzvot are about connecting to God. And that's the whole point. It's a beautiful video. I'll send it out in an email after. You watch him, he describes this, he says the story. It's more... Anyway, this is the point. There are 613 mitzvot in the Torah. The mitzvot are compared to a very, very thick rope. A rope has many, many strings in it. Each mitzvah is another string that creates this relationship between us and God. And sometimes we say, if God wants to have a relationship with me, fine. Let him pick 2 or 3 commandments, we'll have a relationship, that's good. But God deliberately gave us so many different ways to connect to him. Not just 1 way or 2 ways or 3 ways, 613 different ways. First of all, this gives us many more opportunities for connection. Number 2 is that we can connect to God in any sphere of our lives. And number 3 is that if one struggles with 1 mitzvah, more opportunity for connection. By having so many mitzvot that affect so many different areas of our lives, whether it's our Monday, whether it's how we sleep, whether it's what we eat, whether it's the weekend, whether it's our relationships, every part of our lives has mitzvot in it. So every part of our lives has a divine relationship in it. And finally, is that let's say you're struggling with 1 mitzvah. There's still many more ways that you can connect to God. God is not a one-size-fits-all relationship. Text number 10. Stuart, do you want to read text number 10?
The Talmud teaches that one who does a single mitzvah and refrains from sin merits the world to come. If so, why did God give us 613 mitzvot? Would it not have been sufficient for him to admonish us against injustice? Thus, Rabbi Hananiah ben Akashia taught, God wished to make Israel meritorious. He therefore gave them an abundance of Torah and mitzvot. God gave us the Torah and mitzvot in abundant measure to increase our merit. Also, the abundance of commandments guarantees that we will always have the opportunity to fulfill a mitzvah. This would not have been so if we had few mitzvot.
Right, and this is the mistake very quickly of the all-or-nothing approach to Judaism. And many people have this mistaken idea that if I can't keep kosher always, so why should I bother keeping kosher today? But it's not true. Every single mitzvah that you do has value in and of itself. That's a relationship. Just because tomorrow you're going to be in a place where you can't keep kosher, doesn't mean today's kosher is not valuable. Or just because you don't keep kosher, doesn't mean that putting up a kosher mezuzah on your door is not valuable. This is one, this is nothing else. Every mitzvah is a completely different relationship with God. Different part of the rope. So just because you can't do this yet, doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing this also. It's not an all or nothing relationship. Okay? So this is the third motivation we have in why we do mitzvot. There's a relationship that we can create to God. And therefore, because God loves me, therefore, He gave me the opportunity to do a mitzvah. Okay? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's go to the deepest dimension of why we do mitzvot, which is from Chassidus. The Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe, Vishnei Zalman of Liadi, explains about God, who is the first cause. Why would He even put into process this whole story of creation? What does God gain from it? So God gave us the ability to connect to Him. But what is He gaining? So in Chassidus it explains that we live in a very, very diverse, fragmented world. Right? We live in a world of plurality, a world of division, a world of separation. It's called in Kabbalah, mountains of separation. Turei de Pruda. We live in a world where everyone's in their own little mountaintop, separated, divided, disconnected from everyone around them. And even within our own lives are so divided. So, I have this part, I have my job, I have my family, I have my religion, I have my shul, I have my gym, I have my it's all disconnected. God created the world this way on purpose. You know why?
So we strive.
So God wants us to partner with Him to reveal His oneness in the multiplicity and division of this universe.
Can you say that again?
I'll say it again, sure. God created the world divided, created a world of separation and of friction and of division, because God wants us to be His partner in revealing His oneness in the multiplicity, in the division. How do we do that? How do we reveal God's oneness in this world? Through doing mitzvot. By you keeping kosher, by you putting up a mezuzah, by you praying, you're revealing God's oneness in the physicality of whatever it is that you're elevating. Whatever it is you're utilizing for holiness.
Just being here.
By you being here means that when you ate today, when you rested, when you came, and that your car exists for a holy purpose, you now reveal the oneness in everything that enabled you to come here. You reveal the oneness of God within that. Text number 11 states that very, very clearly. Ellen, you want to read? Text number 11?
Sure. When we perform a mitzvah, we infuse this physical world with the infinite light of the divine. This is our entire purpose and the reason we were created, to transform the darkness of this lowly world into light, that God's glory should fill the entire physical world.
Before creation, there was divine oneness. Then God created an existence that conceals His oneness. And then our job is to reveal God's oneness into this world, and to reveal each piece of existence is actually a reflection of His oneness. When we perform a mitzvah, we're infusing that physical object with the oneness that created it. Imagine a big puzzle, all the pieces, they all look disconnected, divided. Look at each piece, you have no idea what the piece is a picture of. Put it together. Now you have a beautiful mosaic, a beautiful picture. Okay, it's like in electricity, you need to have the current flowing. So every mitzvah we do creates the current between the plus and the minus. That's the mitzvah. To allow a flow of electricity to flow through the universe to reveal the oneness of God in the universe.
So how does this connect with the Kabbalistic notion of collecting the little sparks of light?
It's exactly the same idea.
Same idea. And putting them together, and when we...
You're using more Kabbalistic terminology for the exact same thing that I'm saying in very simple English, which is that every single physical object has a spark of holiness embedded within it. That's how it exists. And by utilizing that physical object in a holy way, we reveal and refine the spark of God within to be elevated. That's the idea of revealing the oneness of God in the physical object. It's exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing. That's what it means, real tikkun olam. Tikkun olam, the word tikkun olam comes from the word l'takin olam b'malchus shindal yud, God's name. Tikkun olam is not just to be nice to starving children or to save elephants. Tikkun olam is to make the world reveal the oneness of God in the world. Okay? And this is a whole new way of thinking. A whole new way of thinking. Pay attention to what I'm going to say. I'll say it again anyway, don't worry. But the first models that we discussed, the first three ways of explaining the purpose of mitzvot, were all based upon the operative question of why do mitzvot exist? And we were explaining, they give me reward, they make me internally a better person, they create a vehicle through which I can have a relationship with God. Those are all why do mitzvot exist. This perspective is explaining, why do I exist? And the answer, why I exist, is so that I can use the mitzvot to reveal God's oneness in the world. I exist because this way I can be God's partner in using mitzvot, or through using mitzvot, to reveal the oneness of God in the world.
How does performing the mitzvot
Reveal oneness of God? When you take money that you have and you donate to charity, you're elevating the godliness within the money and making it holy. When you use your car to drive to a class, the car is now being used in a holy way that elevates a spark of holiness that's embedded within your physical car, elevated to a holy purpose.
But how does that?
You don't see little pieces of God floating around like around the car like a halo of light, but
No, but how does that prove the oneness of God?
it's not. What do you mean prove it? Prove it to who? Prove it to scientists? What do you mean prove it?
No, but the statement is that.
You're revealing the oneness. By utilizing this physical object for a holy thing, you've now revealed its divine divinity in the object. You're not going to see a halo of light, but it's now become utilized for holiness. The spark within has now been freed from its captivity in physical existence, and now become holy and elevated. The world becomes, the way we prepare the world for Mashiach, the way we transform this universe from a physical world into a home where God is revealed, is through transforming physicality into a place where God can be there. When you take something and reveal how it can be used in a holy way, you now make it a vehicle for God's presence to be there.
Just to play the devil's advocate, why isn't performing a mitzvah proving that there's a trinity, that there are three gods? Why is I don't understand why it's proving his oneness.
Okay. I'll tell you this. What I just said now in 3 minutes is really full classes of its own. It's a whole entire Hasidic perspective on life. So you can't do justice to it in 3 minutes. To explain the idea of refining physicality, transforming the physical to spiritual, and what that means. So I will leave it that this is just like a tip of the iceberg of the whole Hasidic philosophy is built on this premise of what we just read in text 11, that we have a mission to transform the universe. We transform the universe through mitzvot. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of depth that I'm not going. I mean, I'm barely touching the surface. Let's just keep it very simplistic for the point of this class. The point is not why did God make mitzvot. The point is why did God make me? For me to transform the universe to a holy place for God. Okay? So, this is that every mitzvah that you do gives you a benefit and reward and punishment. It gives you a benefit in your character. It gives you a benefit in relationship. But most importantly, this is the fourth level why people do something. When you see someone falls on the street, you help them, not because you're going to gain anything. Maybe you won't gain. But it's so important. I have an obligation to save this person's life. It's the ethical choices you wanted to say before. Doing mitzvot is my way of fulfilling my purpose of existence. Someone said that before also. The reason why I exist is to be able to do mitzvot to transform the world. Okay? That's our mission, to express the unity of God in the world. And again, I understand there's more that can be expressed. That's motivation number 4, that the task is important because this is what will reveal God's vision for the universe. And now I want to, it's a pretty cool little graphic there, right? Do that again, that's pretty cool. When you understand the intellectual reason for doing mitzvot, automatically the emotional element is elevated as well. Right? When you understand that by doing a mitzvah, I'm fulfilling my entire purpose in existence, emotionally, it's much easier to get in. Okay, I'm going to give a different ending to the class in reaction to the tragedy in Pittsburgh that happened over the weekend, which is something that as Jews shakes us to our core. First and foremost, because whenever you hear of a Jew being killed, it's tragic, especially when you hear of them being killed while they're davening to God, while they're praying, on Shabbos. Makes it much worse. So, there's a fifth reason why you can do a mitzvah, which we didn't even discuss. The fifth reason why I do mitzvahs is as follows. When the neshama leaves this world, for whatever reason, whether they're killed because they're Jewish, whether because they got 120 years old, whether because they had cancer, God forbid, whatever the reason is, when the soul leaves this world and goes up to paradise. What's paradise? Paradise is a never-ending elevation of the soul from level to level. However, what propels the soul through these very many different levels of the world to come, the mitzvah that it did in this lifetime. Can a soul in heaven do a mitzvah?
No.
No. A soul in heaven cannot do any mitzvah. When we go to a cemetery, we put our tzitzis in our pants so that the souls that are there shouldn't feel guilty that they no longer can do the mitzvah. Souls can't give charity, souls can't keep kosher, souls can't be kind to strangers, souls can't do anything.
But we can do.
Right. So normally the soul only has the merit of what it did during its lifetime. Which is why you need a chaperein, as we say, do as many mitzvot as you can in your lifetime, because you never know when the day is going to be. But when there's a person in this world, in the body, that does a mitzvah in the merit or in the honor, in the memory of a soul in heaven, even though that soul in heaven can no longer do a mitzvah on its own, we can give that spiritual benefit to that soul. Understand? Mm-hmm. And so this elevation of the soul, which is normally based upon the actions of the soul during this lifetime, can also be elevated. The soul can reach a higher level in paradise through our actions on behalf of that soul. And therefore, I mentioned this last night at the prayer service, and I'll say it again, the community in Pittsburgh asked that the collective worldwide response should be specifically in protecting their doorways with the mitzvah of mezuzah. With the mitzvah of making sure that you have a proper kosher scroll on your home. And by the way, as I said before, Judaism is not an all or nothing. So even if you don't keep kosher, to have a kosher mezuzah, one doesn't do the other. It's so easy to do this mitzvah properly, just costs a few dollars, and that's it. And you have a kosher mezuzah that every single time you're in your home, you're doing a mitzvah. So anyone that doesn't have a mezuzah in all their rooms in their house, or is not sure if their scrolls are kosher, need to be checked, please come talk to me and we'll schedule a time. You can either bring your scrolls here so I can get them checked, sent to New York to be checked, or I can come to your home and make sure that we put up the scrolls that they need in the right place, in the right doorways. And this way, this mitzvah can be done, besides for the merit that you get, in the memory of the souls, 11 beautiful souls that were murdered this past weekend. And you go to Chabad.org/Pittsburgh, you can actually write it on the website, and they're keeping track, and you'll see your name on the website. All the people that are doing the mitzvot, they're on that website, Chabad.org/Pittsburgh. And next week's class is going to be every week's class or next week's class. Next week we'll be discussing a very controversial topic about Judaism's trying to put people into boxes, if you will, whether it's genders, whether it's relationships, forbidden relationships, and etc. We're going to discuss some things. The camera will be on, but we'll discuss some things. And then lesson 4, which is about suffering in the world and why God would create suffering, is going to be very, very apropos to Pittsburgh as well. I want to open it up to the entire community to allow for more discussion on understanding how God is with us in our suffering. Shall be blessed with a wonderful night, safe week. I'll see you all next week on the road. Thank you. And the crowd, by the way, beautiful crowd. More people listening than last week. Usually it goes down. I see more people. Baruch Hashem. Back house. Thank God. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.